Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, president of Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training. My special guest today is Satoshi Mizusawa, who is the president and representative director of Stryker Japan. Mizusawa-san, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for hosting us in your beautiful offices here. So you are a unique person, I think, in the sense of when I look at your background, you've actually come up through HR and moved into a corporate presidential role.
Yep.
So take us back. How is it that you managed to get to become the president of Stryker Japan? What's the background? Give us some of the backstory on your career.
All right. So thanks. It's great to be here, Greg. And so, that's actually very frequent asked question to me, right? When people look at my career. So I spent about 15 years in human resources before I moved to the business. So let me share with you, how it started, right?
Sure.
So when I got a job, the first job, which was, Sanyo Electric, very Japanese company.
So why did you go into Sanyo Electric? What was the attraction for that company or that industry?
Yeah. So the thing is, at that time, early 20th or the end of 1990s, right? The Japanese business and economy was led by automotive or electronic, companies, right? And then I got a chance to study in the United States. I was in Alabama for 1 year. And then I often had a chance to go to Walmart and I saw, Sanyo's TV. And then, actually Sanyo at that time had a great business out of Japan, because inside of Japan, there were a lot of strong Japanese companies, including like Panasonic, Hitachi, or Toshiba, and so on, right? But instead, Sanyo kind of like drove the business outside of Japan, because they find more opportunity to accelerate their business growth outside of Japan, right? So the thing is, I really wanted to have a global, experience, global job. And that was the reason.
So why did you want to have a global job? Why not be like all the other Japanese and have a domestic job?
Yeah. But, because, working as global is one of my, theme of my life.
Why? Why is that? Why is that?
So the trigger was when I was, 8th grade in the middle school, I had a chance to go to US for the first time.
Right.
That was my first time to take an airplane and to go to foreign country, and then I was drawn to American culture.
So this period of study, this is while you're at university here. You took a year off, or when did you? This is after high school, or when did you go?
Oh yeah, so after the high school, as you know, I went to Aoyama Gakuin University, right?
Right.
And then I tried to take the exchange program,
Right.
because I didn't want to skip, or I didn't, I really wanted to leverage the program, right?
Right.
But actually my English score was not really meeting the requirement.
Okay.
And then I was a little bit lazy, rather than studying, I just, at that time, I just, had a lot of part-time job. And then I was traveling all over the world as a backpacker.
All right. Okay.
So I didn't really study a lot for that, TOEFL test. But instead, what I decided to do is after the second year, I decided to skip 1 year. And then, went to the University of Alabama. Actually, that was, what I did.
Right. Yeah. So you decide that, Sanyo is a very international company.
Yeah.
This seems like it would fit for you. You join. And so what happens there? How long are you with Sanyo? What are you doing in Sanyo?
So,
where do they send you?
Yeah, so the thing is, when I got the original offer from Sanyo Electric, I told them I really want to have a global job, right? So I was supposed to have a kind of like corporate planning for foreign market, or even, the sales or marketing for foreign market, right? That was the offer I originally got. However, because human resources people liked me, in Sanyo Electric, right? And then right before I joined Sanyo Electric, they got in touch with me. Hey, Satoshi, you wanna, I know you are interested in, staying in overseas or having the, global job, but why don't you start from human resources? that was, and then at that time, student didn't have a chance to choose the job they want.
That's right.
But we could only choose the company we want to join, right? So that's why I couldn't reject it because that was already March, and then I joined this, the company in April. So I kind of like gave it up. But what was worse was my first assignment was pension reform project for 20,000 Japanese employees at that time. So such a motivative assignment for the freshman, right? But at the same time, I kind of talked to myself, in order to realize what I want to do, I have to deliver first. Especially the culture of Japanese company, you are not supposed to say what you want to do. At least before that, you have to deliver, something, right? So I just, decided to deliver the great result. And then after that, I may talk about what I want to do.
So within Sanyo, did they send you overseas? Did you get a chance to work outside of Japan?
Yeah. So in the end, after successful, pension reform project, they sent me to Johor, Malaysia, in which we had a manufacturing company for mobile phone. So at that time, Sanyo manufactured a mobile phone in Johor Bahru, and then ship out from Changi Airport in Singapore to American market. Yeah.
Right.
And then also I got another chance in Sanyo Electric to work in Thailand. So there was a joint venture company with Thai company, which produced various home appliances, including refrigerator, washing machine, gas range, and so on. So I got two, a global assignment in Sanyo Electric.
Were these HR projects? Or
That's right, HR
projects. So you get a chance. How long were you outside of Japan at the time? How long were the projects?
1 year for each.
Okay.
Yep.
So that was good. You got to work overseas after all.
That's right.
Finally.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what happens after that? You were with Sanyo for how many years?
Yeah, within 4 years.
4 years, right?
Yeah, after the assignment in Thailand, I went back to Japan and I got assigned to CEO office of Sanyo Electric at that time to work for, strategic team member for the CEO at that time. But
Which is also what you wanted to when you were trying to join at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Corporate planning and that type of thing.
That's right. But I was quite young. I was like 26 or 27 at that time. I was looking for the external opportunity.
So, I mean, GE is a massively famous company, and also they're massively famous too for taking their training of their executives very seriously and investing a lot of money. So this program you're on, how long is that program?
The program lasts for 2 years.
It's a long program.
And then you have to complete 3 different assignments.
Right.
And then one of those 3 assignments has to be out of HR. So different from HR. So that was the requirement. And also at the same time, there were various training programs you have to go through. Some are online and some are face-to-face. There are 2 global seminar per year. So in total, you have to go through 4 global meetings.
And you're doing this in English?
Of course.
Right. So this is not going to be easy for sure.
Of course, that's not easy.
And you're also doing with, I'm guessing a fairly international group as well, because GE is a global company.
That's right.
And they're probably sending people to this training from all around the world. And they're probably all quite aggressive, I guess, and ambitious and competitive.
Yep,
and
that's right.
So that can't have been too easy.
Yeah, that's right. That's true, right? People are so aggressive. And, as you know, Japanese, we consider other people before you speak up, right? But in the US or in GE, you have to speak up. You have to show your presence, right? What's your opinion, right? Otherwise, you could be ignored, right, from the meeting, right?
It could also be deleted too, because they also, I think from memory, bottom 10% gets cut every year type of thing, which is fairly, 10%, that's 1 in 10, right? That's not a small number. So you don't want to get into that 1 in 10 group.
That's right. So I had a very difficult, experience when I got the chance to work in Milwaukee. So the third assignment was in Milwaukee. And I joined this global, kind of like project. Even though the name was global project, but actually I was almost only one foreigner
Right.
and other than me, all American,
Yeah.
right? And as you know, GE was, having a quite tight headcount control, right? So all the, HR leaders in this project are facing with a lot of workload, right? And then I joined this, project, but the meeting is always quite aggressive, very fast, and then, it's simply hard for me to keep up the conversation, right? And then, especially when it comes to HR, culture is important. Legal requirement is important, but I didn't know it, right? I know the legal requirement in Japan or culture, aspect for Japan, but of course, compared with the U.S. people, I don't know about the U.S. culture and then U.S. Labor law or labor practice, but I need to deliver, right? So at that time, I had a most difficult career challenge in Milwaukee. But that, because of that experience, I grew up a lot.
Okay. What was the challenge?
So the challenge was, I joined this global project, but as I told you, it was really difficult to keep up the conversation. And then I was not globalized yet at that time. I was quite junior. So, I had a very difficult time to keep up with the project, right? And then one day, the leader of this project, she started to, kind of like skip my name from the email, distribution list. Because probably, from her perspective, this guy doesn't really contribute a lot. Doesn't really contribute to the project. So, he's not really working. So, we don't need to, share the information with him. That's
Ouch.
probably
Ouch.
right.
Ouch.
So I didn't know what to do. If it were in Japan and if it were the problem about the workload, I had confidence. I can work for 24 hours and I can do, whatever comes to me, right? But that was because of the culture, challenge and the language challenge. I didn't know how to resolve this, right? How to overcome this challenge. So one day I talked to Chinese American, lady, and I was talking to her. Her name was Louis. Hey, Louis, how can I overcome this challenge? I have this, right? And then in my mind, I expected she will be supporting me. She will be talking to the leader to support me.
Okay.
That was something, probably
Japanese approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what she talked to me was, hey, Satoshi, this is US. This is not China. This is not Japan. You have to go to this lady and you have to talk to her. If you didn't share the information, I cannot execute my job. So you have to, share the information with me. That's something you have to do yourself. Otherwise, people are not going to help you, and then you are not able to survive. Oh, I didn't know that was the approach in the US, right? And for many Japanese people, probably that was quite difficult, right, to have conflict. But for me, that was not a problem. But I just didn't know what works in the US, right? So I talked to the lady and I talked to her. I need information to do my job, and then she started to share the information again.
Right.
But actually, for 2-3 months, I had a very hard time. I consider a lot how to overcome this challenge, and even my wife was together with me in Milwaukee. She didn't, she has never seen that kind of Satoshi at the time, So she was asking me what's going on, but I didn't even, I didn't want to explain what's been going on, right? But at the same time, because of this experience, I started to understand what it means to work in global environment.
Yeah, that's right. And so, how long were you with GE?
For about 4 years.
And then what happens?
What happened to me after that? You mean?
Yeah, where'd you go after GE?
Oh, okay. So I went to Abbott.
Abbott. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, when I was in GE, there was acquisition project. GE Healthcare was almost acquiring Abbott Diagnostics business.
Uh-huh.
And we had a integration project going on. And then, we set up new organization and we assign new president. And then, we meet each other and kind of like, just prepared, ready for the day one. But still, anyway, I had, something, to do with Abbott at that time. And then, in the end, I joined Abbott, after GE. So for the first 3 years, I was reporting to the Argentina gentleman located in Singapore. And then the last 2 years, I was reporting to Indian gentleman located in India.
Where were you located?
I was located in Tokyo.
You're in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So what happens after Abbott?
And then, I was, I joined actually Stryker. That was about 9 to 10 years ago. And I joined Stryker as a head of human resources.
Right.
So until I joined Stryker, my career was, always together with HR or corporate planning, right?
Right.
So I joined Stryker as a head of human resources. And then at that time, Stryker was facing with the business challenge. That was right after the, IT, big IT challenge, or, Stryker corporate as well as, international at that time asked me, hey, Satoshi, you need to transform, right? So I asked them what I need to transform. They told me transform everything, culture, talent, and, business and, all those things, right? So, wow, that's a big assignment for HR leader, even business. But I was so excited. And then I started to transform a lot of things.
Let's go back a little bit. We'll come back to this Stryker leadership in a moment, because then you bridge from HR into an actual corporate leadership role. But we'll come back to that. Thinking back to your earliest occasions when you first became a leader, was that inside the HR department? You started leading a section inside HR, or was that when you got to America and you started leading people? When was your first real leadership job?
Yeah, so in my career, probably that was like when I became the HR manager in GE, when I was 29 years old. At that time, probably I was the youngest HR manager in GE Group.
So who were in your team? How many people in the team?
3 people.
3 people, right? So not such a big team.
That's right.
But I guess they're all Americans, I suppose.
No. That was in Japan.
Oh, this is in Japan.
That's
okay.
right. That's right. After I graduated from the leadership team program, I became a HR manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that first case, you've got first time you got people reporting to you.
Yep.
What do you find challenging about that?
When I became the manager, line manager for the first time, I didn't have any critical challenge with about leading people. That was really natural, and I think that fit very good with my probably the leadership behavior, or I don't know. But anyway, I didn't feel like, big challenge at that time.
Right?
Yep.
So when did you start getting a bigger leadership role with more people to take care of? From 3 to, I don't know, 20 or 30 or 50 or 100?
Actually, that's after I joined Stryker.
Stryker, right? So when you become head of HR in Stryker, you've got a biggish team or a small team?
Only 15 people.
15 people,
team.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you become... I think, was it managing director, or I just can't remember how it went from head of HR to, was it managing director, then vice president, then president, right?
That's right.
So at some point you get a lot more responsibility.
That's right.
And that's how many people you're looking after before you became president.
Okay, so the thing is, as when I was in HR, I was managing 15, right? And after 3 years in HR, I moved to MedSurg business. MedSurg is the capital business, including like endoscopy or drill or surgical table and lights and something like this, right? So I started to manage 160 people in my team.
Okay,
and
that's going to be challenging then.
Yeah, after another 3 years, I expanded my responsibility to orthopedics implants, joint replacement, trauma, spine, or orthopedics robotics as well. And then I started to manage 600 people.
Right.
And then about 2 years ago, I became president, and I started to manage about 1,000 people in my team.
So if you think about your experience from your early days at university, right through the career you've had, with different aspects of things you've done, in terms of getting engagement, what things have you found works well to get people engaged? What things did you do to try and improve the engagement? What things you've found so far that work well to get the team engaged?
Yeah. So there are a lot of things, right? But first of all, engagement score. When it comes to engagement score, Japan's score is always quite low compared with everywhere, right? But for me, what I focus on is not the score itself, but the trend of the score.
Okay.
Like in Stryker, we have Q12, which is the kind of like engagement survey, and we ask the same 12 question every year, right? Because we ask the same question every year, we can see the trend going up or going down, right? So I focus more on trend, and depends on the question. Things are going well or things are not going well. We can clearly understand the organization, right? So we can diagnose the team, if they are doing well or not doing well, right?
Yeah, with these surveys, sometimes you look at the survey questions, and sometimes you wonder if the question itself is suitable for Japan.
Yep.
And other times you look at the questions, you look at the translation.
That's right.
Of the questions as well. And is that really the right translation? Because sometimes I think, even though Japan scores are low, I think they're even lower. Because, for example, if you ask a bunch of foreigners, would you recommend this company to your friends and relatives?
Yep.
Nobody has a problem with that. But in Japan, if you ask Japanese that same question, they're thinking, well, if I introduce someone and they don't like the company, I'm going to have trouble.
Yeah.
Or if I introduce someone and the company doesn't like them,
that's right.
I'm going to have trouble.
That's right.
So I'm going to say no. So, I'm saying there are certain questions which I think culturally make it hard sometimes for these scores to be looking good. And also with the translations too. I mean, we have the same thing with translations ourselves. So I always wonder about, is it the scoring? Is it the questions as well?
On top of what you just talked about, thinking about my responsibility, right? They hesitate to introduce sometimes, right? But at the same time, Japanese are quite humble, right? In general.
Yeah.
That's why, if you are asked to rate 1 to 5, you tend to rate 4, even though there is something good, right? And then you tend to score 2 if you are not, very positive. If something is extremely good, you for the first time you put 5 or 1, right? That's what I understand.
So, given that you're looking to improve the engagement, what things have you found in Japan work well to get people engaged?
So several things, but the most important thing is communication. So when I joined Stryker in Q12 free comment, there were a lot of comment. What kind of vision this company has, or what kind of strategy this company has, or because the organization was quite silo, we don't know, what other franchise are doing, or what kind of, strategy or focus other franchise are trying to do, or, we don't know anyone from back office or something like this. So one of the most important thing is communication. So especially now, as a head of, the president of Stryker Japan, I set that vision. I set up the goal, right? And then, I communicate to the employees, not one time. I keep communicating, what I want to achieve, what we want to achieve, right? And the important thing is, quite many leaders talk about it one time in the beginning of the year. We want to do this year, that's it. And then people forget about it, right? But important thing is keep talking about it. And if you keep talking about it, your direct reports gonna keep talking about it. Because my manager always talk about it, I will also talk about it. And then middle manager also keep talking about it. And then, people share the same direction, right? So in our case, I started have, monthly president newsletter, talking about what's our strategy, vision, what's the progress, recognition, challenge, and something like this. And then we have town hall meeting. And then, whenever we have a global guest, we have a, town hall and, all those kind of information or encouragement or recognition to the team are very important. So one of the most, important thing is communication and transparency.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. I agree with that too, because often, you see it on the wall, behind the glass, on the frame, vision, mission, values from the president or the executive team. But no one can remember it.
That's right.
They have got if you ask them, what's the vision? If they can't read it, they can't tell you. What's the mission? No idea. Values, out of 5, they maybe get 2 or 3. So often I think, the leadership team imagines, we told them, everybody knows. But as you say, you got to keep telling them. What other things did you find worked well to get engagement?
Yeah, so for the communication, I try to do something different as well. For example, I have about 50 one-on-one meeting. 50 per month.
Per month?
Yeah, some are...
Still every month?
Yeah, every month.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's something, giving the headache to my assistant because, my schedule is always, quite packed, right? But anyway, some are from US, some are with the US people, some are Europe, some are Asia Pacific, and quite many are my direct reports, sometimes skip level, right? It's very important to keep connected with all those stakeholders. And, I can give them what I want to do, what I want to achieve, what kind of support I need, right? Especially for the people from US, Europe, Asia Pacific. And by doing this, there won't be any surprise.
Now, this is a bit unique in my experience, because what's very common for companies in Japan who are, owned from some foreign headquarters is that Japan becomes a little island, literally, and just works within itself and doesn't really engage.
That's right.
Isolated little island from the rest of the global company world.
That's right.
But what you're talking about is actually really going the other direction and communicating with other parts of the organization globally. And you said one thing there too about skipping a level. So interesting, when your direct reports know that you're talking to their direct reports, I'm interested to say how you do that, because for a lot of direct reports, that's a very scary thing. They think, oh, my boss is talking to people in my team. What are my team going to say about me? How will I look? What will the boss find out about me?
That's right.
Become very nervous, right? So how do you approach that? How do you deal with that issue of people being a bit nervous about that?
Yeah. So by the way, the Stryker Japan was the same as, other, Japanese, the other company in Japan. We were seen as kind of like Galapagos.
Yes, Galapagos Islands.
Yeah, when I joined Stryker, that was how we are seen, right? So, the global people are thinking about Japan, Japanese are quiet, conservative, and lack of winning culture. We can expect limited from Japan. That was kind of like, common You know, that was something I often heard from global people. But I was so frustrated because I know there are a lot of great things in this organization. But anyway, you know, so back to the question,
The skipping
level, right? So actually, that's something, you know, in our case, actually, you know, they are not really scared.
Okay.
But, you know, the other way around.
Well, in that case, I mean, you think about this for people who want to be leaders, and you're talking about, in your example, I skip a level down.
Yeah.
So do you explain this to your direct reports? Say, hey, you know, Suzuki, my way of leading is I like to engage with people one more level below me, apart from my direct report. So from time to time, I'm going to reach out to some of your people and have a chat. I'm not trying to find anything, or I'm not trying to embarrass you. I just want you to know this is how I work and this is what I'm trying. Do you explain that, or do you just do it? How does that work?
Actually, you know, sometimes I do that, but most of the case, totally the other way around. My direct report ask me to have skip level 101 to keep engaging, you know, their team members.
Why do they do that?
So the thing is, of course, you know, when I first started to do this, you know, when I was in MedSurg business, you know, the reason why I started to do was to understand what's going on in the field.
Exactly,
right? And then to resolve their challenge, because quite many things can be, you know, resolved, right? And then also, you know, to recognize, you know, for their contribution, right? So when I moved to MedSurg, you know, I started to do this. But at first, the director as well as the regional managers were concerned why Satoshi started to do this, right? What Satoshi want to know about me, or what is he going to do,
Exactly,
right? But I didn't care.
Okay.
I need information.
Right.
I want to talk to the sales rep, right? I'm a leader of this organization. Let me do that, right? So I started to do that. You know, I often go to customer visit. I often go to the Congress, right? And then by leveraging this chance, I set up 30 minutes coffee meeting. Sometimes 10 sales rep a day in the same cafeteria. So the waitress is, you know, bored of coming to, you know, the same table, right? But anyway, I had that, you know, those kind of one-on-one, and then keep learning from them what is going on, what is the trend in the market, and at the same time, I listen to them. What is the good trend of, you know, sales? Which product, and what's going well, what's struggling, or something like this, and at the same time, I give them the recognition, and I also ask them, what do you want to do in the future, right? Listen to their career aspiration, and then give them advice, and then also recognize their performance, right? So when I first started to do this, some managers and directors were concerned. But after 1 year, 6 months, 1 year, they know after the one-on-one with me, people become so positive, so energetic, so engaged. So the regional manager start to ask me, hey, Satoshi, I'm a little bit, you know, concerned about this guy.
Right.
Can you, you know, spare your time for 30 minutes one-on-one or something like this? That's why actually one-on-one has been the culture in our, you know, organization.
Oh, globally or in Japan?
In Japan.
In Japan.
Yeah.
So when you get people engaged, they care. And when they care, they start to think about how we can do things better. So do you have any systems you use to get ideas from the team? Do you have any brainstorming techniques that you find work well? How do you get ideas out of the team?
Yeah, so probably, you know, this is kind of like related to, you know, innovation, you know, because, you know, innovation is one of the theme for our market. And, you know, the technology is, you know, is evolving day by day, especially for our business. We have a lot of, you know, robotics and digital technology coming to our market, right? But of course, you know, unless you change the way you work or the way you think, innovation cannot be generated, right? So, last year we started, because I got appointed in 2021. So during 2021, we developed, our midterm strategy towards 2026, which is 5 years strategy. And then I named it Defy the Odds.
Defy the odds.
That's right.
Okay.
So Defy the Odds is, there are several reasons, right? One is, as I told you, Japan was seen as very conservative and quiet market, right? I really want to defy those expectations.
Right.
But looking at ourselves, that was true. We were conservative and we hesitate to take a risk, right? So we also needed to defy those, kind of like, behavior. I don't know.
So did you use defy the odds in English, or what's the Japanese?
Defy the odds in English.
In English?
Yeah.
Okay.
So defy the odds is one of the most popular and famous English phrase among Stryker Japan's employees. The reason is because our CEO, Kevin Lobo, in the US, when he got appointed, there was potential acquisition of robotics, which is called Mako. Right? That was a big deal. And then at that time, there was almost, very limited, focus on navigation in orthopedics arena. And there was almost no robotics for orthopedics, right? But there was a potential acquisition. And then there was a lot of question or, headwinds for Kevin because, people didn't believe in the future robotics, right, for orthopedics. But, Kevin believed, this will be coming for orthopedics and to make healthcare better. And then he did it, right? And then now the Mako is the flagship product for Stryker.
Right.
So he definitely defied the odds.
Right.
So sometimes, he came to Japan and, he talked to me, Satoshi, we have to defy the odds, right?
Kind of like a catchphrase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, fit with my experience in Stryker because we are seen so quiet, conservative. I really don't want to be seen like that, right? So I named, our midterm plan as Defy the Odds.
Well, you have R&D people, right? Who that's their job to innovate and come up with new stuff. Apart from that group, the other part of the team, it could be in sales, could be in back office, could be, how do you get people to come up with ideas? Might be saving money, might be saving time, might be better quality, might be improvements, any number of things you can do. So do you have any particular techniques for getting the ideas out of people?
So, for example, Defy the Odds, we set up 5 strategic pillars.
Okay.
And then under those 5 strategic pillars, we have about 5 to 7 initiatives,
right?
And those initiatives are led by cross-franchise and cross-franchise and cross-functional team.
Okay.
And then they are always discussing, what to do, and then what's the goal, and then what's the current progress, what we need to do next, and something like this.
Okay.
So as far as you stay in the same function, same franchise, probably nothing new will be coming out. But because you are talking to someone you don't know, or you are talking to someone, who have different expertise, you can, kind of like generate, something you didn't come up with by yourself, right?
There's also probably an energy too. Like, for example, Dale Carnegie, we have APAC region, we have conventions. Every time I go to these conventions in APAC anyway, I always come back and I think, wow, everybody in APAC, apart from Japan, is hungry. They're all hungry. The energy, you can feel it. You get back to Japan, nobody's hungry.
Right.
It's like everyone's had a big lunch.
Right.
They're looking for a bit of a hirune, a bit of a nap.
Right.
And the rest of Asia is like, where's lunch, So I guess when your people are touching base with these foreign entities or foreign parts of Stryker, part of that energy is going to be coming into. I think it's a good thing.
That's
to have
right.
that happen,
And on top of that, the important thing is the communication again, right? I talk to the team. I often talk to the team looking at the market. Competitors are merging, acquiring, or spin off the business, and then low birth rate, aging society is going on, reimbursement price cut, digitalization, and the robotics, new technology is coming. If you change yourself, we're going to be left. We're going to be behind, right? So, at least we have to be adaptable to the change, especially after COVID. Things keep changing, right? So this is the minimum requirement to be adaptable. But ideally, we want to be the one who develop the trend, new trend in the market.
Be the leader.
That's right. So talking about Mako business, we are the one who launched the orthopedics robotics for the first time in Japan market. And then we are leading the way. So if you are the one leading the change or leading the trend, you are so comfortable, right? And then
There's also a lot of pride.
That's right.
And suddenly you go from that to being a market leader. If you're inside the company, hey, we're a market leader. We're
That's right.
defying the odds.
Yep.
We're introducing new technologies. That's motivational, isn't it?
So we keep communicating this, right? And sometimes we use this example. Looking at joint replacement business, it was growing like 1%, 2% every year back in 10 years ago, right? But now, because of the technology, because of the robotics, because even though there was a lot of pain for the first time, but because we lead the change, we lead the trend, we are leading the way. I mean, our performance is really outstanding.
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
So what about trust? One of the things, you've worked in Thailand, you've worked in Malaysia, you've worked in the States, you've obviously worked here. And I think it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, trust is critically important in life, critically important in business. In terms of getting people's trust as a leader, what things have you found works well to get trust as a leader? Yeah.
So, the typical mistake or typical failure is try to move the things before developing the trust.
Okay.
So in my case, I got a chance to work in, US and Malaysia and Thailand, right? Working with the different people. And then I'm expected, right? Hey, we are sending, this Japanese gentleman to Malaysia. And, and then I get a lot of pressure as well, right? Because, after I'm dispatched, I'm delegated, I have to deliver, right? Because of the personal reasons, people tend to hurry up and make a mistake and failure. In the end of the day, no one really follow you. So actually, in Japan, I often see the foreign leader coming to Japan, and then they couldn't really understand why they are so quiet. The people are quiet, conservative. We are not able to change a lot. And then
why everything takes so long.
That's right. And then, decide to change before building the trust.
Right.
And then, in the end of the day, no one really support and no one really follow. And then, very miserable result, right? So,
what in your experience, what works well in Japan to build the trust so that you can get that first and then make the move? How do you get the trust?
So several things, right? One is, the respect what they have done before you got appointed, because there should be the reason why they are doing this, even if you don't like it, but there was some reason why they are doing this. Maybe my predecessor instructed to do so, right? They just follow, supervisor's direction, right? They didn't do anything wrong, right? But, because I didn't like it, if I change, this is not the right thing to do, and change it. But actually, they were doing it because of the, direction, company direction, right? So I think it's very important to listen to the team and then respect what they have done and to understand the reason why they are doing this and doing that, right? So that's very important. And then by doing this, you can develop the trust,
Mm-hmm.
right? And another thing is recognize the team before pointing out.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
So you mean pointing out mistakes, you mean? Recognize,
exactly.
Give them the recognition before you point out mistakes.
That's right. That's right. Because, you try to improve. You try to deliver a better result. So you tend to look at something they are not doing well, right? And then you want to do it, you want to make it better, and you want to be, highlighted. That's the people, usually tend to do, right? But actually, there should be a lot of good thing as well. If you deep dive, right? And then before pointing out something they are not doing, this is very important to highlight and recognize, something they are doing well. So those kind of things are very important to, develop the trust each other.
What about culture? Because you have a Stryker global culture, then you have Japanese culture, and then you create a Japan Stryker culture. So what have you found works well to create a Japan Stryker culture?
Yeah. So somehow, Stryker Japan's culture is quite similar with Stryker global culture.
Okay.
I think,
Well, what I'm thinking of is you, as the president, you create the culture.
Yeah.
For example,
Yep.
yes, you're given a culture from headquarters,
Yep.
right? Defy the odds
Yep.
is a type of culture.
Yep.
Okay. Innovation, it's a type of culture. So you receive that.
Yeah.
And then you have Japanese culture, which is a different way of communicating and
Yep.
human relations and this type of stuff.
Yep.
Wa and harmony, all that stuff, all that typical Japanese stuff.
Yep.
But then you're the president. And so you want to have a culture inside this company. And you came in as a head of HR and you told me you saw all these issues and they said, hey, Satoshi, fix that up, or transformation, go ahead, do it, right?
Yeah.
So you're creating a different company
Yep.
from what you inherited when you started as head of HR. So what have you found works well to build a culture internally?
You mean the key strategy to?
Well, how do you change the culture? How do you create a new culture? How do you change the direction of a culture? Because there's already, as you say, your predecessors have created a certain type of culture,
Yep.
and you want to take the culture in a maybe another direction or develop it in a certain way. How do you do that?
So probably quite similar with what I talked about. Communicate what I want to do, right? And communicate what kind of company I want to make, right? First of all, quite many leaders do not know what kind of company they want to develop.
Right.
Or even if, they have the vision in their mind, they don't communicate to the employees. So unless you communicate, they don't know, right? Or some leaders, they do communicate, but only one time or two times, right? So in order to develop the culture, the first thing is, something in your mind, what kind of company you want to develop, what kind of culture you want to develop, right? And then you need to keep communicating to the team because this communication is going to be the culture, right? So, in our case, when I got appointed, I developed One Stryker Japan vision, which is, of course, we are aligning with the US, corporate culture, but in Japan, we want to be the fastest growing medtech company in Japan. And then introduced 3 pillars: innovation, growth, Stryker pride.
Stryker pride.
That's right. So for innovation, we want to be the company who is seen as, Stryker is a company of innovation. Or Stryker is the one keep delivering the innovation to the market, right? And for growth, we want to be the company who is, growing much faster than the market. And also not only the business, but also we keep growing our talent, right? And then for Stryker pride, diversity, inclusion, of course, but at the same time, not only Stryker employees, but also, Stryker employees' family members are proud of working for Stryker.
So let me clarify, because pride has now got a new meaning around the world, which is this LGBT connection with pride. you're not talking about Stryker pride in that sense.
No.
You're talking about Stryker being proud
That's right.
to work for Stryker,
That's right.
right?
That's
Let me
right.
just clarify that.
That's
okay,
right.
thank you.
Maybe.
I mean, it maybe includes it
Yeah.
in the sense of, diversity and
That's
inclusion, but I just want to make sure we get that clear.
Yeah.
And so what else have you found works well? You've come up with some great things here in the way you communicate, driving the direction. Anything else that do you do things like get people together? You talked about town halls before. Do you have sort of activities that you bring people together?
We have like family day activity, for example.
Okay, right.
Even during the COVID, we implemented family day. Connecting the people from Hokkaido to Okinawa.
Right.
And even though it's just a brief event, 1 hour, but involving the kids,
Everyone.
and the employees. And before that event, we send out the cookie, for everyone, for 1,000 employees.
Right.
And then with those cookie, please join the family day.
Nice.
And then in this small gift, I include a message, what kind of company we want to be. And then all the time, in order for Stryker's, people to do the great work, there has to be, the great support from the family members, right? So, we include the message for the family members, appreciation, and then also invitation to the family, family day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. If you get a chance, have a listen to my interview with Nakashima-san from Kewpie.
Yeah.
And he talks about what they do.
Yeah.
Very similar, very interesting innovation that they came up with there, actually.
Yeah.
So in terms of if someone was going to be sent to Japan and told, okay, you go to Japan, run the organization. They don't know Japan. They don't speak Japanese. You talked a little bit before about turning up, wanting to change everything before you build the trust. But what would be some other pieces of advice you'd give someone in that position?
I think 2 things, right? One is be patient. I mean, even if,
you don't strike me as a patient person.
What's that?
You don't strike me as a patient person. You strike me as a very dynamic, go type of person. So I'm interested when you talk about that.
But you don't know something about me.
That's true.
Actually, I look quite dynamic, but at the same time, I'm so sensitive. Yeah. Because I was in HR. HR leader cannot be simply dynamic, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So I always think about what people are feeling, or if they are following me or something like this, right? But anyway, back to your question. So I would say patient, because of course language is the hurdle, or in order to get the honest opinion, it takes time. But once you get the trust each other, it's going to be much easier to get what you need. And also, once you get the trust, they're going to support you a lot, right? So, Japanese are, very humble, hardworking, people in general, right? So, be patient for the first a few months and just focusing on building the trust and then building the followership, right? That's one thing. And another thing is focus on the talent. Even in Japan, there are global talent. You can bridge the gap between Japanese culture and foreign culture, right? I think I was the one for Stryker Group, right? I joined Stryker. I bridged the gap between Japan and global culture, right? And then now, actually both of them need to change their behavior. For Japanese people, they need to understand what kind of behavior we have to show when it comes to global stage, right? But at the same time, I try to educate the global people, what is Japanese people like, right? So by doing this, we can have a deeper understanding each other, right? So focus on the talent, and then having them on board, or even within the organization, there might be good global talent. So make the most, leverage those talent to help doing what he or she want to deliver.
So just coming back to Stryker in Japan, do you bring in foreign staff from other parts of Stryker to work in Japan?
Yeah.
To get that mix?
So this is very important, to have a good balance, right? If you focus too much on internal talent, we are not able to defy the odds. Means, because people know only,
Galapagos Island.
That's right, right? So, it's important to bring the new talent, from external market as well. But if you do that too much, the internal, people who are in general very engaged or dedicated to Stryker lose their motivation. Because whatever effort I make, anyway, my boss will be coming from outside, right? So we have to have a good balance. And then when I bring external talent to the organization, I pay extra attention to the reaction or potential reaction of the existing team, right? And then when I promote internal talent, we congratulate a lot.
Do you get to send many people from Japan to overseas?
Not much.
Not much.
No,
right?
that's something we need to do more, over the coming years.
Well, I always think about this example. I travel the world, I stay in hotels. How many Japanese GMs, general managers, do I run into running a hotel in Europe or America, right?
Very limited, right?
Right? And yet you've got all these five-star hotels in Japan full of Japanese learning to become managers. But even in their international environment, they have very, very poor mobility to take the Japanese out of Japan and have them run the operation in Germany or have them run the operation in New York or something. So I think that's language is usually the problem, right?
Yeah.
But on that point, should the foreigners learn Japanese?
That is very difficult, right, to use in your daily work, right? Because if you have some foundation, it's a different story.
I'm assuming they have none.
None, right? But still, at least if you try to learn Japanese language, people feel happy, right? Because at least, we feel this foreign leader is trying to understand our culture or have a conversation directly with me in the same language, which is not English, which is our language, right? So this kind of posture is quite important. But honestly, if you ask me, he or she will be able to do the job in Japanese, I don't think so. It takes time. It takes a lot of time.
Take a lot of time. Yeah. And what's your definition of leadership?
That's another, frequent asked question. So I often talk to the team, 3 traits and leadership behavior, right? So in order to, be a great global leader, I think, it's better to have 3 traits.
Okay.
One is intelligence, courage, and toughness. Those, balancing those 3, traits are very important for the global leader. And then for the behavior, setting the direction. What kind of vision you want, or what is your goal you want to achieve. But not only setting the direction, building organizational capability, and not only building the box, but inspiring the people inside of the box, right? Inside of the organization, and developing the talent, and then delivering the result. Those 5 leadership behavior is something very important to be a successful global leader.
Well, thank you, Mizusawa-san. Thank you very much. It's been fascinating to talk about leading in Japan with you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.